My Brush with Death by Jim Brown. It was the evening of the 10th of April 1941. I was 9 years old and sleeping in the front bedroom of 217 Northumberland Road, Southampton, with my mother and 14-month-old sister Maureen. As I lay in the large double bed, listening to my sister gurgling in her cot alongside, I heard the deep drone of aeroplanes. I immediately realised they were enemy planes. Like all schoolboys at that period, I was expert in identifying aircraft and the sound of Luftwaffe bombers from afar. The sound gradually increased and I was convinced I was right. I woke my mother up, but she told me not to be silly. The sirens hadn't sounded. I then heard a strange sound over and above the by now penetrating drone of the flight of planes overhead, a rhythmic rustling and swishing noise that seemed to come from over the roof of the house. It gradually got louder and I was puzzled. What on earth was it? I was very quickly answered. With an absolutely tremendous roar, a brilliant burst of red, purple and yellow flashed before my eyes, and the house felt as though it was completely lifted up. The bed did indeed lift what felt like several feet in the air. The room was completely choked with dust, and we were all struck with large lumps of plaster as the ceiling collapsed onto us. With a scream, Mum jumped out into the thick cloud of fine particles and ran across to Maureen's cot, flinging off the sections of plaster and pulling her out unharmed. We all felt suffocated and were deafened for some considerable time. I looked up at the ceiling and saw stars, real ones, not those from a blow, as well as circulating searchlights. The roof had vanished. Simultaneously we heard the siren sounding, once again late off the mark, and the thunder of anti-aircraft fire. A glance out of the shattered bedroom window revealed that the terrace of houses opposite were no longer there. Only a pile of rubble remained, and we could see right across to the other side of the adjacent road. It then became obvious the swishing noise had been that of a parachute mine swinging in the air as it descended over the railway lines before landing in the rear gardens of the houses opposite. It was one of a string of 12 that fell across the town that night. We then picked our way down the stairs into the Anderson shelter in the rear garden, where we remained until the light of day. On emerging, we found something strange laying on the ground outside the back door, the front door. It must have been sucked out by the blast, lifted over the roof and then deposited on the ground at the rear. In adult life, I often reflected on just how close I had come to death and wondered why God had spared me. I now know the answer. 2 wonderful daughters, 5 fantastic grandchildren, and 4 amazing great-grandchildren, none of whom would exist had I not survived.